DataMaster can help simplify the process of rebuilding what the market looked like many years ago, or even a few months ago, or even a couple of weeks ago. And so we're going to start, and we're just going to call this a retro demo. And a lot of times you may be doing these on something other than a 1004. You may do them on a GPAR. You may do them on a review report, something like that. The market analysis side is not different for any of the reports or the form type, so it's going to be the same. So it really doesn't matter which report you pick. The market analysis side is going to be the same. We'll just keep it at 1004 for today, and we're going to start a new one. So there's a couple of key things, couple of key steps to do first. So the first thing we want to do is we want to change our effective date. So this particular assignment, we're going to go back in time, back to May 1st of 2020. And so I've changed the effective date. So you do that by clicking on the calendar in the upper right-hand corner. And then you can go back in time by clicking on the month, the year. You can scroll back through. It's pretty easy to navigate through and find the right date. So now, as we bring data in, the effective date, it's going to analyze back in time from May 1st, 2020. The other thing that you may want to check is in the settings section, the upper left-hand corner, go to settings, and then in the market analysis, you'll want to make sure that you look at the number of months that you're going to be analyzing. This is months back from the effective date. So I have it set to 24 months. You also want to look and see if you're going to count under contract or pending properties as active listings, or if you're not going to count those. There's a few other changes that you can make here as well. If you're doing a current value and a retrospective value, you may want to change the color of your graphs to represent the two different reports so that it's less confusing. And then under formatting, you want to make sure that the actual age of the comparables is calculated based on the date they were sold, not the current date. You can, in this case, I'm going to keep it sold date because everything we're going to use is going to be based on those retrospective sold dates. So just a couple of settings there. You can change the effective date after you load the data in, but it's a little bit easier, less time consuming if you change it prior to loading data in. Now one of the key factors is getting information out of your MLS. So this is what my MLS looks like. Hopefully you can see my MLS here. And I'm just going to show you some examples of how you may want to search for this. I'm going to do a full search. Yours will look a little bit different, but the concepts are the same. I'm going to select all property types, and I'll show you why we want the withdrawn, the expired, the cancel, especially, I pick these all the time, but especially when we're doing a retrospective assignment. And then a lot of times you can pick your range for where you want the sold properties to be. In this case, we're going to go back a couple of years before our effective date, and we're going to run that up to our effective date. On the sold, and the expired date, we also don't want anything that's been expired beyond our 2 years prior or the canceled date. It really is not going to matter what the last date of the expired listings are. DataMaster is going to handle that part for you. So you could set it up this way, where you're putting in your sold date range. This will get you all of the listings that were active during that period of time, and also any that have not expired after that time. So another way that you could do it is you could say, well, I want I know I've got to go back about 3 years from now, and that would be about 1,100 days. And then I want to capture another 2 years worth of data, which is about 730 days, 750 days. So you could do just go back in time, the number of days back. You could just enter a number like 1,850 days back. This is going to give you a greater result in the terms of the number of listings. I'm going to take that off for a second. You can see that I've got a lot of matches because we haven't done anything else. This particular one that we're working on is in a city called Hooper. We're now down to 430, and it's a newer property in Hooper. So I'm gonna look from 1990 to 2020, including my new construction. It was also on a property that's got it's a more rural community, and so there's some acreage. So I'm going to do at least 0.45 to 3 acres. My property has 1 acre. So I have about 172 listings that fall within that date range. So I'm going to look at those, view them, and I'm going to select all of them. And then I'm going to export that. And this is how my MLS does it. Your MLS may do it a little bit different. If you're in a Flex or a Matrix system, I think it runs along the bottom. But so we'll just add that, and I'm going to put it in my demo exports there. So we get about 172 listings. If I go back and I just put in about 1,800 days back, I'm going to continue to get, maybe I'll do 1,850 here. You're going to notice that this count increases. It goes up to 168. And really what it's doing is it's giving me everything up to today. So I can view that, and I want to show you what the difference may be. But we'll export this and we'll call this Retro Demo 2. Okay, and we'll kind of show how DataMaster can use this. So we have these 2 files we've created. We're going to go now back to DataMaster, and we're in the competitive market section. I could do this in either the neighborhood or the competitive market. And I have my effective date set, and I'm going to say get comparables, and I'm going to go and get that that first search that we did with the 178, and we're going to open that. And it's just going to take a second here, no longer than normal. And if we go and we look at the detail, so we can look at our graphs, and it's going to show us that our graphs go from May or June 2018 all the way through May of 2020. So that's what the market was doing at that time. And you'll see that we have days on market for both the listing and for the solds. If I scroll down, it has competing housing supply, list to sale price ratio, the total number of sales and listings. And these are graphs that I've selected from our graph section. There's 28 different graphs. If you go to the add, all the graphs that are that you're using or that are available to use are on the left side, and the ones that you're using are on the right side. And if you want to change, you just select one and move it over, and it goes down to the bottom. And if you wanted to then move it up, you just select it and move it up, and it's going to come in. If there's one that you don't want, you just highlight it and move it back over into the available graphs. So that's how you get more graphs or different graphs. I personally like to see the graphs that have both sale and list matrix in them, or indicators. I like the dual graphs better than a single graph. Now, if we look at this, if we look at the data, we can go to the details, and you're going to see along the top, we've got the 0 to 12 months, 7 to 12, 4 to 6, 0 to 3. And if we look at the 0 to 3 months, it will show us what the status is currently in this column, and what the status was as of May 1st, 2020. So I'm going to sort by close date here. And we'll see that this particular one, number 16, was an active listing on May 1st, but it's currently an expired listing. So it ended up never selling. So if I had not selected expired, this listing would not have come in to the report. So if I'm over here on my status and I had not brought in expired, then I would not get this listing number 16 or 17 or 18, etc. So because of the power of DataMaster, and that it can go into the back end of your MLS and extract out the status date and when the listing actually changed statuses, it can rebuild the market exactly the way that it was at that time. So if we go to the 1004 MC, we look and we see we had 8 active listings. This was their price range. There were 54 sales in the past 12 months. That's their price range. And even if we go down into each of the periods, there were 8 active listings, 0 to 3 months. There were 12 in the 4 to 6 month. There were 5 in the 7 to 12 month time period. All of this is rebuilt exactly the way that it was. Now we have 172 properties there, and we can play around a little bit with this. If we wanted to change the effective date and see what it was 1 week earlier, we can just simply change that date, and it's going to recalculate everything. Our summary sheet, it's going to be current. It's going to reflect exactly what was happening at that as of May 1st, 2020. You'll see here we have 24 months of month-over-month analysis, the number of sales, the median sale price, median sale price per square foot, days on market, etc. for all 24 of those months. Now, if you wanted to only look at 12 months, then again, we would go over to the settings, into the market analysis, and change this to 12 months. And it's going to take just a second here, and you're going to see all of this is going to change. Now we're looking at 12 months. When we look at our graphs, the graphs are 12 months. Because we brought in enough data, these graphs are now, they're accurate. They represent the data. If we look at the 12-month period again, the 0 to 3, it's the same. Now we look at this number 12 listing here that says it's canceled, and it doesn't tell us what the status was 0 to 3 months ago. And that's because it wasn't a listing 0 to 3 months ago. If we look at the 0 to 12 months, let me go back and, okay, that's 165543. Sort here, 160. Actually, let's do it this way. We're sorted by contract date, so let's do it that way, by contract date. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to find the same listing. So we can see what the status was. All right, 1655. Bear with me here for just a second. We know it's a canceled one right there. Okay, so it's number 52. So even looking at the entire time period, it came in, it was listed prior to my 12 months. So it's not going to show up as a status. So if it's beyond the 12-month period, it wouldn't tell us what the status was in the 7 to 12-month period. You'll see here on number 46 here that its current status is sold, but it was active during the 4 to 6 month period and the 7 to 12-month period as well. And we can see that close date, the contract date, the off-market date, and the original list date. So there's some great matrix or information that you can glean from this, and we put it directly into the graphs, into the report, all of those things that we need to do. Now that pulling it out of the MLS, the second way that I did it should give us the same results, even though we have a lot more listings. So we're going to look right here. We'll take a little snapshot of this. And of course, I'm doing this live. And so we'll take a little snapshot here so that we can compare. I'll move that over to the side. And then I'm going to clear out all of the properties. Our effective date's the same. We now have no data in. And this time I'm going to get that second export file, the one that we just did, the 1,850 days back. Now it should give me, in my MLS, it should give me all the same listings. Looks like we have a few more listings that were probably expired listings after that date. Let's go and we'll look and see why we're different. We have the same number of sales, the same price range of sales, but we have a few more active listings. And so let's go to the details sheet and we'll look at the 0 to 3 month, and we'll just sort by close date again. And sure enough, pulling the data, we ended up with some active listings that went on the market before May 1st and were still active, but didn't come off the market until August, July, September, or June time period. So there's you'll have to kind of figure out with your MLS which way is the best way to get data out. Each MLS is going to be a little bit different. My MLS, it's better for me to simply do a number of days back instead of trying to set the sold and the expired date. If I do a number of days back, I get more listings that come in, and I also then get a better reflection of what's going on in the marketplace. We can look at the graphs again. I again like to do 24 months, so I'm going to change the analysis to 24 months. And the reason I like to do 24 months is that we have seasonality in my market where we have this winter and summer season. And if I don't do a seasonality, I can't really see. So here's what the winter looked like in 2018. Here's what it looked like in 2019. I can also see that kind of in this summary. Here's the seasonality going through there. So if I don't include 24 months, then I miss some of this, being able to see where the season was. We have, after we had a really strong December in 2018, December and January, and then our winter kind of kicked in, and spring was a little bit late, probably a little bit late in the recovery. Versus this 2019 to 20. You can go back up to 5 years as long as you bring the 5 years worth of data in. So that's how we would do a retrospective report. Now, one of the other nice things, excuse me, about doing the days back and selecting all statuses is that we can move this forward and see what's happening in the market today. So if I say today, we're going to see these graphs are going to change, and especially this is going to change. So let's just hit today, and it's going to recalculate to what's going on today, May 9th, 2023. And again, it's because I did the number of days back and selected all the statuses. So currently there's 7 active listings. There's 16 solds in the last 12 months. We can see their price range. We can go to those graphs, kind of see what we expected. Prices have begun to drop. When the rates started increasing in my area, we started seeing very, very little sales and listing activity. The market reacted in a very hesitant way, and a lot of folks pulled their properties off the market. And we can see those gaps now in today. But this is going to now be accurate as of today. We look at the detail sheet. Here's the 0 to 3 months going back from today. Here's those actives. Here's the one that are under contract, the expireds, and the solds just in the last 3 months. And so that's one thing that that you can do that's an advantage if you do the number of days back, you can compare your retrospective appraisal to the current if you needed to do that in in your assignment. Any questions? I think if you've got some questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm going to transition now and talk about the smart field technology for a few minutes. I don't know if there's anybody that has any questions. Really, the key is getting the data out of your MLS accurately, and DataMaster can sort through it all. If you're bringing in more data than what you really need, that's not a bad thing. That would be something that would be good. So let's look at our summaries on what we call smart field technology. And I'm gonna show you this with this data that we're using, kind of a highlight of what this is. If you look at the foreclosures, it says this is our default statement. It says the data used in the graph above does not indicate that there were any REO or short sales or other distressed properties associated with the reported transactions. And so there are none that are listed. If we go to the detail tab and we go to the 4 to 3 or the 0 to 3 months period, let's say that these two, or that this one here was an REO, that we knew that it was, and that our MLS reported it incorrectly. So I'm going to click that it's REO. I'm going to save the change just for demonstration purposes. And you're going to see now that REO statement completely changed. It's a completely different statement. What it says now is that the Utah real estate MLS indicated that there were 16 closed sales during the past 12 months. And one of those was either a foreclosure or a short sale. That's 6% of the total transactions in the market area. In the prior 7 to 12 months, there were 0. In the 4 to 6 months, there were 0. But in the 0 to 3 months, there was 1 foreclosure or short sale, which is 33% of the sales for this month. So it uses the data to form your paragraph. That's how all of these paragraphs are built. So this is very powerful. You can build some statements based on your summaries for your individual area. The default for the summary paragraph is empty. We don't put anything in there for you. This one is one that I've used, that I've built, and I want to show you how to build it. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm just going to put it into a Word document so we can see what it reads. And then we're going to go back and we're going to go to, this is the one that we're using, and I'm going to highlight this real quick and copy it also in that so that you can see what the difference is. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you. Okay, so this is what the statement says, and where you see this number 7, that's a data tag. So it's this total number of listings. We have another data tag here, data point with a data tag. You'll see that anything that's between the brackets is a data tag. So actually the $sign is not part of the data tag. So you start with a paragraph that you want. What is it that you want your paragraph to say? And you write that, and then we figure out which data tags we can plug in so that we can automate the process for you. So if I go back over to my statement here, I'll do let's go back, and we're going to start with a new one. I'm going to add one in. So let's say we're going to start here with my inserting a calculated value. So I can pull from the neighborhood at large. I can pull from the subject market. So I'm going to look for my MLS or my data source. So we have a couple of hundred different data tags that you can search from. And let's see, I may need to get it from the MLS. It's been a little while since I've done this, so we're looking for the data source. Days on market. It might be MLS as well. Hold on a second and I can figure out. Total, let's see. Oh, this one I didn't do data source. We'll just pick one here, and so that you can see how it works. Actually, let me go back. So I'm pretty sure that we should have it in here. Data source, there it is. I just went too far. Okay, so I'm going to add the data source, and then I'm going to have a space, MLS, reported, and then a blank. And now let's input total sales. So the total number of sales. Total sales. And we have to type in sales in the past 12 months. And maybe we want to do sales and total listings in the past 12 months. So that's a pretty simple. And then we'll say median price per square foot for the past 12 months was, and then we're going to go and find that median sorry, I hit the wrong one. So median, that's the list price. We want sold price. I keep hitting the wrong one. And currently, and then I'm just going to find the current 0 to 3 month and add that. Okay. Now we're going to save this. So we're going to save. And there's that test comment. And then we're going to say that's the one we want to use. And we hit finish. Now, the paragraph changed and it said the Utah Real Estate MLS reported 16 sales and 7, I need to add listings. I didn't add listings in the past 12 months. Median sale price for the past 12 months was $212, and the current median sale price is $185.14. So that gives you an idea of the way that you can use the smart field. You can also use a template. So if I want to go back to that rural market one, I just say use that, finish, and now my other paragraph is back in. So you can build different paragraphs for different markets. If you work in an urban area and then a rural area and you want 2 different comments in there, maybe in the rural area, it's just the number of listings and solds that are more important than the price per square foot. That may not be meaningful because you have a lot of acreage, or there's a lot of outbuildings, or something else is different, and the price per square foot is not a real good indicator. But if you're in a real suburban or urban area, it may be better to indicate that these other indicators are part of your commentary. So it's not really hard to do. It's a little time consuming in the beginning. Most important is writing the paragraph that you want first, and then getting the data tags to plug into that. Now, if you see some data tags that, or if there's some data that you want that we don't currently have, please let us know. We're constantly refining the list and adding to it. And if you need some help, we are certainly here to help you to build those comments and save you the time. And the other thing that's important here is that you see that your summaries, your commentary is data driven and not subjective. Somebody can't come back and say, well, you were biased in the way that you summarized your market trend. Well, if you're using just data to summarize that, data is part of your description, your reconciliation, your summary. It's less likely that you're going to be biased. The data itself is accurate and speaks for itself. So those are the 2 things I wanted to cover today. So thank you. Have a great day.